Hello, listeners. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Christine Passo. I'm a support and transformation coach for midlife women, and I'm also the host of this podcast, Unconscious Evolution. Today, I very warmly welcome Tanya Crocker Nagle to the show. Thank you so much for being here, Tanya.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I know this has been a long time in the waiting. We were going to record in December of 2024, and just life gets in the way because that's what it does. So let's learn about Tanya. Tanya Crocker Nagle helps Gen X and millennial families strategically design vacation homes so they can live life's best moments today while also shortcutting retirement wealth growth. For some reason, that was a lot in my mouth. Retirement wealth growth from 30 years to 10. Tanya's contact information and social media details are listed in the show notes as usual. Please feel comfortable reaching out to her. She's just a really beautiful woman who enjoys talking, getting to know other people. And you will see that if you begin following her on LinkedIn. So please do. So, Tanya, thank you again for opening your personal life to us today. What would you like to share? And has anything new come up for you over the last few hours in anticipation of being here today?
I would say more so than the last few hours, the last few months have been just shockingly eye-opening for me. We were supposed to do this in December, and right after Christmas, I actually had a cerebral stroke, which I am not I'm not the poster child for strokes. I'm healthy, I work out, I eat healthy, and like nowhere in my mind was this something that was going to happen. I actually thought I had food poisoning, and it was a friend who happened to say, I don't think you should still be dizzy after 3 days. Why don't you just go get checked? And it was New Year's Eve. So I went, I got checked at the urgent care, and they're like, oh, it's probably vertigo. I can give you something, or you can go get checked out because maybe on the off chance it's something more. And once they said that, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if I don't go to the ER. So I went to the ER, and even they were like, 95% of the time, it is just vertigo and no big deal. Well, they give me the CT scan, they come back, actually, you're in the 5%. And not only did you just have a stroke, but what they didn't tell me is that it was so massive that they couldn't contain it.
Oh my gosh,
I
Tanya.
have to I have to pause for a minute. I told you I might get emotional. I'm not trying to, but
That's all
um
right.
they were afraid it was going to swell so badly that they'd have to relieve the pressure, and they weren't set up to do that at our local hospital, which is insane because I live in suburban DC. So all the hospitals are great. We're not like some rural hospital here, but they moved me to the trauma unit in case they had to do something more. And I didn't know that until last month when I actually met with the neurologist. So I didn't realize how scary things were when I was there. But the reason this all comes up is because I feel like so many people live life focusing on the wrong or focusing on the bad. And in fact, every time I tell someone this story, they say, well, oh, I'm so sorry. And I just want to say, please don't be sorry for me. Don't you get it? When I was in the hospital and they did this CT scan, not only was it such a intense cerebral stroke, but I'd had one before and never knew. And so I feel like lightning struck twice and I survived it. Not only did I survive, but I'm here talking to you. My balance was affected. But when I was in the ER, the nurses there were telling me, you are the only person on this floor that we can actually communicate with. And that hit home because you hear the PA announcements talking about stroke victim, ETA, 15 minutes by ground, and it was constant. And here I am, totally fine-ish, talking to them. Meanwhile, the swelling and all that stuff did have to take some time to come down. I am still healing. I am still pushing myself and doing things like squats on a Bosu ball to relearn things. I mean, I'm an educated woman and I'm walking down the street talking to myself in my head, moving my head. This is up. This is straight. This is left. This is straight. This is right. This like I am teaching myself over things that I should know, but trying to repath ways to correct any balance issues that are still lingering. So it's incredible. And I just think that people want to focus on the bad. And here I am just saying, no, I won the lottery. I am so grateful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you First of all, I'm so grateful that you're here today. I'm so grateful that you can tell your story. And I'm so grateful to know you so that I can continue to cheer you on as you go through this because we do. When people go through such hard times, we say, I'm sorry, but thank goodness you made it, right? Like we say all these things, we put that silver lining in there. But I want to back up for a quick second
Yeah,
because you talked about how when you went to the ER, when you went to the first medical place that they just said, 95% of this, it's just vertigo, it's just whatever. Can you share? I'm going to ask you two questions. Can you share what you ended up learning? Okay, about does this happen more commonly with women? Does it, hit
yeah,
women or men of a certain age? And then talk about the symptoms that you felt so that anybody now moving
yeah.
forward
This is
can
a
be
great
more
question.
educated than they were before.
Yeah, 100%. Well, first of all, let's just talk about the symptoms first, because I think that's the biggest mistake that's out there is that, people expect stroke to look like a drooping face, to look like inability to do certain things, to look completely different than it looked for me in that moment. Literally, I felt a little bit like I was not feeling great that morning, but just kind of like maybe I was coming down with a cold or something. And so what I ended up realizing is that by lunch, I just got really sick and nauseous, like I had food poisoning. So there was, there's throwing up. I don't know how I would say it's not so pretty to say it on, recording, but
Hey,
um,
throwing up.
I threw up. And so then I just thought I was dizzy from throwing up, but I was so dizzy that I was lying on the floor in my foyer, cold, flat, hard. I couldn't stand up. I was just like, I thought maybe an hour and change passed, and it was 5 hours that I
Oh
was
my
lying on
gosh.
the floor. And the thing is, I wasn't alone. My husband was there, my kids were there, but none of us had it on our radar that I would have a stroke. We all thought it was food poisoning or just bad flu or something like that. And the thing is, you just don't know. So we talk about stroke in terms of all these things that people expect to see. They don't expect to see it in massive dizziness and nausea. And that part of the brain your cerebellum can actually completely create symptoms like that. So I was able to speak, I was functioning, but I just needed to be flat and not move. So I think that people also expect it to be older people, right? And I have since learned that this has happened to people much younger than me. I'm 50, which is way young to have a stroke. I'm also in good physical shape. And I know this because they have tested me for everything since then to try and figure out what the heck happened. I don't have cardiovascular disease. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have high cholesterol. I meditate as a normal practice. I walk, I move, I exercise every day. I am very healthy with what I eat. This still happened to me. And what what they've called it is cryptogenic. And what that means is it's a fancy word for we don't know what the hell happened to you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what they had discovered with the echocardiogram in the hospital is that the hole that is normally in all of our hearts before we are born, and it's a way that the blood gets oxygen to the lungs when you're in utero, normally closes when you're, after you're born, by the time you're age 3, most people sooner. But for 26% of the population, it never closes. And that is super frightening because they don't even check unless you're in the NICU or you have some other reason, they don't even check for that. So essentially what that means is that if your body happens to generate a small or even tiny clot, like in my case, it had a direct pathway from one side of my heart to the other side, and that side that it passed through to gave it a direct highway to my brain. So, you know, I think we all have to realize that none of us are immune. We say, I think what's really been a realization for me is that you hear stories about people who go to sleep at night and don't wake up in the morning. And you always think, well, that can't be me. I feel fine.
Right.
But I went to bed feeling fine. Thank God I woke up that morning. But it can happen at any time. Life is really very precious. And it's not that I didn't already know that. So part of me internally, is like, God, really, did I need this lesson too? I lost my dad when he was 60, and so he was 62, actually. I was 28. And then after my kids were, kind of old enough where I could start, doing a little bit more for myself. I had left my job and I was working from home, created my own firm at that point, but it was very hard balancing work and two young kids. So by the time my kids got old enough, I'm like, yay, now I can finally do something. Then my mom got diagnosed with cancer and dementia on the same day, in the same hour.
Hmm.
And it was 7 years of caring for her with Alzheimer's. So, I feel like I had enough life stories to understand the value of the moment. It has built me, it has made me what I am today. It is why I do what I do. And this was just like on top of it, everything else. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I needed this lesson too. But the clarity from realizing that you can be the healthy person and still not know if you're going to wake up in the morning, like, completely changes it.
Yeah.
My dad worked really hard under the old rule. The rule we're all fed: work hard, save, retire someday, live the best life. And I saw him
Definitely a generational lesson as well.
100%. Yeah. And, and a lot of these, well, my grandparents had pensions. My parents had pensions.
Mhm.
I'm like generation number one of no pensions, which is why I say I help Gen X and millennials, because I feel like that whole pension thing got thrown out the window and we got sold the bill of, you're going to do fine with a 401k. But a 401k is a stock market, and we all know that's volatile.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a time in my life where I had quit my job as an architect, and I had started my own design firm. And how that happened, we can get into it later if you want. But I was really looking at it as, I want to live these moments now. And I want to be the one to raise my kids. So what can I do? And being able to work from home and, raise them, that was my goal, because I saw my dad not get to do that. And then I saw my mom live but not really understand what it was to live.
Yeah.
So it's just, there are just these life experiences, and when they all come into play and you realize, wow, even though I've tried my whole life not to be my parents, things can still happen to you too.
So, yes, absolutely. I mean, things can happen to all of us. It's kind of like, when somebody shoots a neighbor and says, well,
Yeah.
that was the nicest person. I never ever would have dreamt. Like, we have it in our brains that think that we have it all figured out, that we have everybody all figured out, and everybody is just as beautiful and shiny and wonderful as when they wave to you when they're at their mailbox. And you know what? We've all got stuff going on, and the stuff that we can't see inside our body, that we don't find out about until it happens, or we go in for a freak test and we learn about it. It's like, we've clouded our judgment on what reality really is. So I want to ask you more about when you talked about, really, do I need to learn more? Do I need another lesson? And so I want to ask you this question, though, in a slightly different way. So you talked about how your father passed away when you were 28. And then, of course, the devastating news that made you a caretaker turned you into a caretaker, which we all know is a job of love, no matter what, because you're not getting paid for any of it. And it's really hard emotional, physical work. So you had your dad, your mom, and then this happened to you, and you're raising kids and you're married, and you talk about the lesson. And I really was digging deep when you said that, because I was thinking the same thing when I went through deep grief last year. It's like, oh, I need to learn this. But you know what I've come to realize, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it and how it might be showing up for you, is that I realize that it's not necessarily a lesson for me, but it's what I'm meant to pass on to others. It's what I am meant, in whatever way that resonates with me, whatever way is connecting with me, to help and guide, help others become aware, because it happened to you. There's nothing you can do about it, right? I mean, what are you going to learn? Okay, well, what I learned is that I can get sick even when I don't think that I can. That's not your lesson. But I think there's just something bigger out there for you to do, given what you've been handed in your life, the things that you didn't want. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's interesting because I hadn't really, I mean, I've had certain thoughts, but I hadn't pieced it together quite like what you just presented to me. So as you're talking, I'm sitting here remembering that I was just so grateful. And I remember thinking about the fact that I was alive, but also what if I weren't? What if it hadn't played out like that? And what I realized what I realized is that I took some pretty big chances earlier on in my life. I was 7 months pregnant and quit my job. I had gotten published in the Washington Post for design articles, and people started calling the firm and wanted to hire me. My boss was like, "We don't have time, but you can do it on your own time." I was like, "Okay." So I did. And that gave me enough confidence to say, I could work for myself. I can be the one to raise my kids and do this at home. But many years into that, I looked at our numbers and I thought, we're doing everything right. We're doing everything they say, they in quotes, that you should do. We're putting money aside. It's not going to be enough. The stock market's not doing great. I ran the math. I'm a nerd too. So I extrapolated it out into the future and I was like, we cannot live on that. We can't not even just live, like we can't have the lifestyle we want. So what do we do? And I had to dig deep and say, well, what am I capable of doing? And as a trained architect, certified interior designer, and kind of passionate travel person, I was like, well, I can renovate houses. I do that for a living. So let's try this one. Let's buy this, fix it up, turn it into a place where we can share it with others as a vacation home, but it's also a wonderful place for joy for our family. And so that was scary as all get out. I took money that I had saved for a kitchen renovation and decided, I guess I'm living with the old kitchen for a while, and I bought another house instead. And I think that point right there was pivotal. I did something different than what most people do. And so as I'm there in the ER, I remember thinking, thank God. It's very emotional for me. I just remember thinking, thank God I bet on myself and bet on us. And thank goodness I did that chance. Like, I took the chance. I took the risk. I built a thing. And I can pass that on to my kids. And I thought about all the memories we've had over the last 11 years there, with family, with friends. And that was a realization. I still have so much more to do, but I did that. I did something. And so realizing that it could have ended that day, even though it didn't seem like it could have before, like the day before, it was nowhere on my radar I was going to have a stroke and be in the hospital for 3 days. But that realization, wow, like I took a chance. And you know what? Now I've figured it out. I duplicated it. I've done it again. I've helped other people do that. When you're speaking about this question for me, I'm thinking, you know what? I really did create an alternative way to live experientially now without taking away and drawing away from your ability to save for the future and have the retirement you want. In fact, not only does it not detract from that, like most travel and vacation does, it has actually supercharged that, which is why I say compress retirement savings from 30 years to 10, because I did it in 7.5. So, and that was not on my radar. But I'm sitting there in the hospital thinking, gosh, like, I don't want this to be over. I have more to do. My journey is not done. But if it were, I had a good life.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you I know this is very emotional for you. I mean, it's still very raw. It's very fresh. You're still going through this. And I really appreciate you sharing what is probably really hard for you. So my heart is with you. I'm like, I've got these extra heavy beats going on as you speak. And I want to point something out to you, Tanya, that, you talked about how much more work you have to do. And I appreciate that. I feel the same way. And I want to just focus in on something for a minute. So you rent this vacation home. I've been to so many different like Airbnbs, VRBOs, like, all those. That's our preferred way to travel. And we have so many incredible memories that we talk about due to the house, the environment, the warmth that it offered. And so every single person that has come through your home, you have touched, maybe not directly. Maybe they don't write to you and say, Tanya, thank you. Let's be friends now. It's different, but you've touched all those people's lives in a way that they tell a story about what you provided for them. And so it goes so far beyond the memories that you've created for yourself and your own family. And not many people can say that. And I just want to talk about that because most people do travel by Airbnb and VRBO. And we don't stop to think about how much heart goes into the designing of these vacation homes for other people to experience, maybe even life-changing vacations.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about 2 points there, the designing of it and the experiences from the guests, because I knew it was gonna be a great place for people, but opening the guest book, I love the guest books, by the way. The first thing, I make a beeline there, and I open it up, and I see who's left a message. But there are families who shared that they've gotten together with a grandfather, and this was going to be the last trip for him in his lifetime, and the last time he was going to see his great-grandchildren. There are families there who have gotten together after COVID, so we haven't seen each other in 5 years. We are coming together from all over the globe, and they list the countries. And this was so great to have everybody back in one place again. You just realize it is so much more. I mean, people want to know about what it does for your income as far as investments and whatnot, but that is not the big ticket. The big ticket is absolutely the impact you can make on people's lives. And to that regard, not everybody does what I do, but I try to find out what people need. I've invested in commercial grade ramps so that wheelchairs can go up into the front one or two steps for the person, the military vet in a wheelchair, for the twins that were in wheelchairs. I it's a whole different view on the lives that people are living and how to really accommodate them. And to that extent, I think a lot of people also feel like they can just buy a property and make it like a house, and people can go and enjoy it there. And it is not the same animal. So there is definitely a different focus and intention on how to design a space, not only from the perspective of how people are going to use it, but how it can be modified, because there are also many different needs that come there. And you want it to be that special gathering place. And to really think about it inside and outside. What are the pockets you are creating? How are you fostering that connection with people? You need to have places where everybody can get together. And you also need to have places where a couple people can have that intimate conversation they've been meaning to have for months and months, just to catch up. And it doesn't feel like, they're in some huge cavernous space. You need to have all those different scales of human interaction reflected in the built environment to foster it between the people.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. You're so right. And I love that you think about those things instead of being one of those, homeowners that says, well, this is what the house has. If you want anything else, you have to bring it. Which, yes, there have to be some boundaries, right? Like there has to be some limit with everything. It's maybe whether it's financially or whatever it might be. But I love that you listen to that inner voice that you have, which is the voice of caring, the voice of, going that extra mile, which I have a feeling speaks to you from what you've lived through in your life, specifically losing your father and what being a caretaker for your mom and Alzheimer's. I mean, these things affect everybody. It's and I love that you're taking that spirit of, we'll just call it the lessons, but again, I still feel it's what you're meant to give. It's what you're meant to represent in your life. That's the bigger piece of who you are that maybe you realize and maybe you don't.
No, I think I fully embody that now, more so than even 3 months ago. And I knew it then, but now it's just like, get out of my way. I have a message to share. But the thing is, I want people to understand too that you don't have to have a vacation home to do this. Like, I really am all about the extra 10%. It has been the foundation of really what my success is all about, going that extra mile. When people renovate their own homes, they're trying to make things better and whatnot, but you really have to be intentional and focus on what are your goals for that space. What are you trying to accomplish? How is it not working for you? People often know that because we tend to gravitate toward the things that are thorns. But how is it actually working for you? Don't let that part go. Keep both things together. And you need to think that you can stretch a budget by focusing on one or two or three key places to spend well. In other words, invest in the really great lighting fixture, invest in the special feature tile here, but then everywhere else where you have major square footage of tile that doesn't have to be at a premium dollar, you can save there. And the combination, when people see those special moments, makes the entire thing feel uplifted. And it's the perception of value that actually drives worth.
Yeah.
Because then you walk into a space and you're like, this is amazing. Well, we could have been really great with the pennies over here, focused it right here, and now the entire space feels elevated, which means you've raised your equity if it's your main home too. So, going the extra mile has kind of been the experience of my life, even down to the GPA when I graduated college. Like I can trace back 0.001 of my GPA to one question on one test from one conversation that I decided to advocate for myself in the future. And all these things flip over. You don't have a dollar at 99 cents.
Hmm. Yeah. So I want to ask you, with a lot of emotion, you said you have a lot more work to do. That's a really hard thing to process, in your life as you continue to grow. Is there anything on the forefront that you're thinking, this, this right now is most important to me, that I want to do, that I want to be, that I want to show up as? Like, has anything come into vision for you yet?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But I think there's a primary overarching theme here, whereas that we really all need to stop and be present in the moment and not rush forward to tomorrow. And like my mug says, find joy in the journey, is really to embrace those moments, because oftentimes we don't realize how special they are in the making of them unless we choose to be present in the moment. You have that picture from family vacation, like, oh, that was such a great time, we shot that, and you're just kind of living it then, but then you go back and that's the moment that's in your brain
Yeah.
of that wonderful experience. So being present and just grateful for what you have now and excited about the future, not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until the future comes and I'm not going to be happy until the future comes. No, that's not how it works. That's not joy. That's a trophy. So I feel like there's definitely that, but I see bigger things. Like my gift in this world is that I can take the natural environment and the culture and the sense of place, and I can transform it in a design way where people can experience it. And that is a gift of translation that I really feel I have. And to be able to share that on a larger scale with tech that doesn't even exist yet is something way out there in the future that I can see. But for right now, I see what it's done for me. When my mom's memory care climbed to $14,000 a month, and when my neighbor was getting hassled taking care of her father, who didn't have any funds, and she was getting hassled by the adult protection services. Meanwhile, she's like, I can't be with him all the time. I have 2 kids I'm raising. I have a full-time job. How am I going to be there to cook and everything for him all the time? And they were saying, you need to be here for him because he needs the help. The system is broken.
Yeah.
And so realizing that what I had created all these years ago, just by trying to not hurt our future finances, do what I could to improve them, and live moments with my kids today, really made it such that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm doing this silently, quietly in the background just for myself, but I need to teach other people how to do this and how to do it strategically, because there is a right way and a wrong way. And I don't want people to fail at it, because it has made such a huge difference in our lives, in the prospect of our future, in how, if a parent becomes sick and all of a sudden is $14,000 a month to care for them, because I couldn't have even done that myself in house. In the end, she had to be in a facility, because it's just not safe. I mean, she almost burned the house down. There's anybody who's lived through having someone with Alzheimer's knows stuff like this goes on. But we had this extra resource, and it really was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what I was doing, but I built a safety net that also brings me joy and
Yeah.
brings other people joy. So I feel like I am right now in this moment meant to be present, enjoy these experiences, help other people get to live them, share them with others. I'm meant to grow that. And if I can do that in a way where I'm also integrating being able to educate people on culture where they are. So it's not just about, yeah, I booked a 5-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms. No, where in the world are you?
Yeah.
Like, are you living it? Are you experiencing it through all of the different senses? And to be able to build that out into places where people can go and families can enjoy them, that's massive. That's my now moment. But I see bigger. I see bigger for sharing more with people in ways that, like I said, don't exist yet, but I believe
Yeah.
they will.
So I love how you talked about being present. So we hear this word all the time, right? We hear it, oh, are you being present? You need to be more in the present. Stop thinking so much about the future, what you don't have, stop worrying about the past. But being present is a gift that you don't know of until you know how to find it. And I've been on this journey of learning how to be present for 2 years. And because the thing is, you can become present. I became present, but then I wanted to become even more present, because life is still going to do its thing. It's going to run its course, and it's going to bring up stuff that's going to be painful, that's going to be hard. And I'm right now in a 10-day uh, present meditation course. So it's mostly about instruction and then meditation. And I got caught up in, over the last few months, I kind of got caught up in all the stories I was telling myself instead of living in the present. So this is something I want to share, is that when you live in the present, you're not so worried about the other stuff because you're not focusing on all those thoughts. You're focusing and being grateful for what you actually have versus what you don't have.
Right.
You're so, the beautiful sheets you just bought and how much you love getting into bed at night. I mean, there are so many little things that come of being present that most of us ignore every day and instead complain. Well, I should have bought these sheets instead. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
it's a minor thought, but even as I was meditating today and the instructor talked about feeling your hands, I had them resting on my lap. I was in a cozy chair and I was like, wow, these hands are so powerful. Like the things that my hands have touched, will do. We don't think about that. And, for somebody maybe that isn't quite connected with spirituality might be saying, well, that sounds ridiculous. Well, to that person, I would say, just give it a try, because it's when we live in the future or we're constantly thinking about the past and how it didn't go the way we wanted, we're stuck. When you focus on the present, you get to see all the beauty. And it doesn't surprise me in the least bit that that's important to you, that really focusing in on that. And I love that because there's so much to learn when you're actually in the present.
So I actually have a tip to share on that, something that has only really become, I mean, I kind of knew it, but I didn't put words to it until the last couple of weeks even. And that's that, in the process of being silent and being present, you also start to learn, okay, how do I stop doing,
Mm.
and start more allowing? And sometimes we think about things that we're trying to change in our lives. And because we have so much resistance built up around a specific certain experience or person or thing like that, we tend to get so caught up in the now, not in the present, but in kind of like the visible of what it is. And so a couple takeaways for people will be that what you see now is old news. This is the representation of the past. And if you want things to change, you can focus on the future, but you can also need to find that present. And what I have realized in the last few weeks is that you can find that abundance and allowing of the future without the resistance when you find certain pieces that all are already in your life abundant, and we all have them. And I'm not talking money, I'm not talking necessarily relationships, although you could look at those things if you wanted to, but I'm talking about looking out into the yard and really seeing how many teeny tiny blades of grass there are, and are they growing in the spring, and the little tiny fibers of them in the fall or in the summer. Look at all the leaves everywhere. If you're on the beach, the tiniest grain of sand, over and over and over again. We have so much abundance. And so the image that comes to me is really the collection of seashells in my mind from walking the beach in the morning. the little teeny tiny seashells. Like, I don't know why for some reason they're tiny and not big ones, but sometimes they kind of pool in a little space and you're just walking along and then there they are, like thousands of them in this, 3 foot by 4 foot little spot, just the way the water put them there. But it's amazing. So I have that image, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but I have many, many pictures of all of the different shades of caramels and ochres and grays and, basalt colored shells, just all in this one place. So I think of that and it makes me feel immediately abundant.
Yeah.
And, you can look at anything, the petals, the flowers, the clouds in the sky on a day where the sky is peppered with clouds. I mean, that's the kind of abundance that I can't see why people would have resistance around that.
Yeah.
So focusing on those things
Yeah.
really helps you feel blessed and abundant and gifted in the moment. And I have found that an extremely helpful way to meditate, think about those things, and feel it in the now.
Yeah. I totally agree. Earlier this morning, I was outside with our dog. So we have an 11.5-year-old Sheltie and a puppy who turned 13 weeks yesterday, a puppy Sheltie. Her name is Emma.
Do they get along?
They do. They
Oh,
do.
good.
So Zoe's the older dog, and she's doing such a good job at teaching Emma how to be a good dog. Like,
Aw.
no, don't chew on that. Let me show you. Zoe will go grab a toy and bring it into a dog bed and chew it, or she'll bring her a toy to play tug. I mean, it's just a cute. I mean, it pretty much brings tears to my eyes. But so I'm outside walking around the yard with them, and Emma, is brand new to all these things, and she just loves rolling in the grass and the sun beating on her skin now that the temperatures are warmer. And I hear the birds. All the birds are out because spring is almost here. And I was like, okay, so my morning for work was not busy. And thank God, because I get to have this moment. I get to be here with them as Zoe's sniffing the air, right? Like her fur's blowing in the wind. It's like that is being present. And it's not worrying about the next minute. It's true awareness for what is happening right there in that very, very moment. And it was just beautiful. So I love that we talked about this after my experience this morning. And it really does. It really helps you ground yourself with what matters most.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
yeah,
And owning your time and being able to appreciate that in the moment. Yes. Couldn't agree more.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today and talking about some very emotional things and also a lot of inspiring points and what you've done with your vacation home and for your family. For all the vacationers that have been to your home, thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in. As usual, Tanya's contact information is in the show notes. Get in contact with her. Find out where her vacation home is. Go stay there. Obviously, she's going to give you a good time. But until next time, enjoy yourself, enjoy the moment, and try to discover what your unconscious evolution is. Thanks again, Tanya.
Thank you so much for having me.